they can see us. Alex, Melinda, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect.
I can hear you now.
Okay, very good.
I didn't think about it. I wonder, does he have your PowerPoint and put it up, or?
I emailed it to Nancy and she said she would get it up. But if we're having problems with the TV, I can grab the computer.
Hey, Matt.
How are you? Good. Sorry, I was working a little bit.
Really good.
Eric, do you have B's presentation, the PowerPoint?
I don't think I would listen to that.
Nancy got it.
Let me see.
I can also run and grab my computer. You should be able to.
Ah, yes, I have it here on my computer if you'd
okay.
like.
Perfect.
Okay. I don't get why this is not showing up on the big screen. It like worked for a second and then it didn't. Yeah.
Everything connected over here, okay?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Stretch the TV on and off again? See if that.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll share the screen so everyone at home can see the presentation as well.
Perfect.
People online.
Thank you. I'm not sure where the intern folder is in those. So like I have mine. And then
The HDMI
maybe
do sound right? Is that what you normally see when you turn on the monitor, or is it?
It might be.
Yeah, like I said, it was like it showed my desktop for like a minute and then it cut out.
Well, there's an automation system in here, so I'm
Oh,
not really sure
2025 intern.
what its interference or effect of this is.
Okay. They can see us fine.
Oh, they can
We
see
just
us?
can't see them, yeah.
Awesome. And still have to try unplugging, plug it back in, see if it loses lock. I don't know. Do we have a quorum right now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, geez, okay.
Yes, we do. So we have Alex and Melinda joining us virtually this evening. So we do have a quorum, so whenever you are ready.
Sure, yeah, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:35. And I'll look to Eric to take the roll, please.
Okay. Alex Dukeman.
Here.
All right, Matt Crabtree.
Here.
Melinda Ellswick.
Here.
Jim Woodward is currently absent. Cash Parker.
Here.
Ken Chu.
Here.
All right, and then for staff is Eric Sampson with Community Development, and Tamara Niles, and B, what's your last name?
Meyer.
B. Meyer from the City Attorney's Office.
Next item on the agenda, the approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion about the minutes or proposed changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those from February 19th.
Second.
Was that a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I will raise a motion to approve the minutes as written.
There's a motion to approve the February 19th minutes on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, there's a second. All those in favor, we can just say aye, starting in the room. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And online.
Aye.
It's unanimous, both in person and online.
Thank you for that, Cash. I should have paid attention to what you were actually saying.
That's okay. It's not the first time that's happened. Public forum, I do not see any members of the public in the room. Eric, are there any online?
No, there is not.
Okay. That brings brings us to public meeting procedures with the city attorney's office. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
We have just prepared a brief presentation for you guys today about the public meeting procedures that the city uses. I'm Bea Meyer. I am a law student here in Denver at DU, and I am an extern with the city this semester.
And I am just here in a supportive role.
Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background. Englewood uses Bob's Rules of Order for parliamentary procedures for public meetings like this. The original was published and adopted by Englewood in 2018 and then updated in 2023. And in 2024, Englewood made some small updates and changes to the physical book. So we've annotated a copy with the changes for you guys that will be with you.
Sure.
As well as created a reference guide just for quick use during meetings and things.
Thank you.
Here you go. Here you go. And then printed out the ordinance as well that made those changes for Englewood. So that is a brief background of just what is going on here. So Bob's Rules of Order are just basic parliamentary rules for how to run a meeting. The main goal is efficient and professional public meetings, and so there's a lot of flexibility in it for the presiding officer to sort of bend the rules as needed to make sure that meetings run smoothly. In the actual book, Appendix B is a list of all of the rules as they appear in the book. So it's just a quick reference list of all the rules to look back at. And then Appendix C is a table of all the points and motions. So if you guys need to refer to it quickly, those are really good resources. And the main things that you guys can use are the motions and the points. So motions are used for any formal action the body wants to take, like accepting the minutes or ruling on a quasi-judicial issue. And the procedure for all of them is pretty much the same. It needs to be introduced and then seconded, and then it's open to debate, and then it's voted on. The points are a little bit quicker. They can be raised by any member at any time, and they're used to handle more procedural issues or urgent matters that need to be handled pretty quickly for the meeting to keep going smoothly. Yeah, the next slide. And then this reference guide is also just for your guys' ease of use during meetings. It emphasizes that flexibility we talked about, as well as the basics on motions and points. And it also has a little bit of info on a motion to reconsider, which it can be a little confusing. So what a motion to reconsider does is allows you guys to reconsider a motion that was already voted on. So it takes you back to, it vacates the previous motion as if the vote never happened. So functionally it works the same as the other motions in that it's introduced, seconded, voted on, or debated and then voted on. It can only be brought at the same meeting or the next meeting after the motion being reconsidered. And if it's successful, it basically undoes the original motion as if it was never voted on in the first place. So that is the motion to reconsider.
I'll just add on that. This is something the city council, we discuss every time they want to do it, because it doesn't overturn the prior motion. It doesn't, if you voted yes by approving a motion to reconsider, it doesn't then change your vote to no. It just means it's like it never happened. Someone can make a new motion and then you debate and then you vote again. So it does require 2 votes then to overturn. It's vacate and then change. Something we discuss every time this comes up at city council.
And then your reference guide also mentions executive sessions, which we'll talk more about on a later slide, and some ethics information to help you guys distinguish between the appearance of impropriety versus a true conflict of interest. And the main difference there is that if there is just the appearance of impropriety, you guys have discretion over whether you want to recuse yourself on the matter or still vote on it. Whereas if there's a true conflict of interest, you have to recuse yourself on the matter and you can't debate or vote on it. So that is the reference guide. And let's talk about, oh yeah, thank you. And the changes that Englewood made in 2024 were with this ordinance that we printed a copy out. And it just made some small tweaks to Bob's Rules of Order as they appear in the book. So on the next slide, the first one is with Rule 1.4 and recusal and leaving the room. So with the conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety, if you're recused on an issue, Bob's Rules of Order says you have to leave the room, but Colorado open meeting laws say we can't make you leave the room completely, so you just have to step down from the dais or step back from the table. But you don't have to fully leave the room, so you can stay and listen. The next change is Rule 5.6 with closing debate. So under Bob's, if you as the member introduce a motion, you get the first opportunity to speak to it and debate. And the Englewood change just gives you the first and the last opportunity, so you get to start and close out the debate on your own motion. The next one is with Rule 710. Oh yeah, thank you.
I can't see it. And I apologize, we anticipated it would be up on the screen, but obviously technical difficulties, so I'd be happy to email this out to everyone after the meeting.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be fantastic.
Thanks.
Our next one is with Rule 710 with a summary of debate. This rule doesn't exist in Bob's Rules of Order. It's just added in the Englewood updates. And it basically lets you as a member request a summary of the debate to be added to the minutes. So rather than having to look through the entire debate again, you can just have a brief summary to refer back to. And this one is objectionable. So if a majority of the body objects to having it added to the minutes, you can vote on that. But it just lets you add that summary if you want. And then our next one is the point of decorum, which also doesn't appear in Bob's rules. So it's just part of the Englewood change. And it's just an extra point that you guys can use if you believe a member is violating the rules of decorum. So those you can find in the city council policies. And the main difference there is just the situations that you would use this point in. So with a point of decorum, you would use it if a member is like shouting or interrupting someone or being rude, violating those rules of decorum, whereas like a point of order you would use if a motion wasn't introduced correctly or if you think someone should recuse themselves on a matter. So just the situations you would use those are a little bit different, but functionally they work largely the same. And our next one, this is our final change, is about the motion for executive session. So this is the last point on that reference guide. And the main point here is definitely reach out to the city attorney if you want to use this. For some matters, you may want to discuss them in confidence outside of a public meeting if there's going to be confidential information discussed or something like confidential legal advice that you want to discuss in a private setting. You can make a motion for an executive session, which just allows you to debate it outside the public meeting. These ones under Bob's Rules of Order aren't debatable. The Englewood change lets you debate it, but only about whether an executive session is appropriate. So you can debate whether you would be allowed to have an executive session at all. And the city attorney will definitely be able to help you navigate that and decide if it complies with Colorado laws. And that is basically the rundown of what's going on with Bob's rules and the Englewood changes. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. I don't have any. Does anyone else have questions?
Sure. I've got a question on executive session.
Totally.
I understand when there's boards that maybe have a little more authority than us, require executive session for, issues that might interfere with certain requirements of the state. I don't see us needing that. Is there a specific scenario that you can address where we might need an executive session?
I'm happy to take this one.
Totally.
Well, you soon will be a quasi-judicial board. We anticipate through the certified local government process. When that's the case, I think it will elevate your board to the ones that do have more authority. I mean, you will have authority. You won't just be advisory any longer.
Right.
And in that case, maybe you have legal questions. You want legal advice. Maybe the first time you have a quasi-judicial hearing and you want some legal advice on what the impact may be for properties or something like that. I could see that certainly happening. In that case, your chair or board liaison would contact our office. We'd help draft the motion. And we would always have an attorney here, obviously for attorney-client privilege executive session, but also for any quasi-judicial hearing to be able to answer questions as they come up.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Not related to this, actually, I have one more question. It was discussed previously that we as a commission, because of the quasi-judicial nature or us becoming quasi-judicial, that our ability to reach out to the public and or our ability to communicate with the public on matters with, for instance, as designation. So we couldn't go out and encourage designation by, like for instance, myself, I was talking to my neighbor and, hey, your house is really historic. I think you should consider historic designation. Maybe you should, reach out and fill out an application. That would be somehow a breach of, I guess, conflict of interest or ex parte, maybe. I'm not sure how that would apply. So that was how it was originally addressed to us. And I've had some questions on that since that was originally brought up.
So there is a prohibition on ex parte contacts once an issue becomes a quasi-judicial issue. If you know you're going to have a quasi-judicial hearing to determine whether or not it will be a designation, at that point, ex parte contacts are prohibited, and all of the information regarding how to decide that should be in your public hearing. And you should make your decision based on the information everyone got during the public hearing. However, and maybe Eric can weigh in on his perspective, but from a quasi-judicial ex parte perspective, prior to the point that we know, or it's likely to become a quasi-judicial issue, you're not prohibited from having conversations. I know my last city went through the same process and became a certified local government as well. In that case, really the HPC, those were the people that when it got the word out about the process and here's how you apply. And so in my experience, the board members were very active in soliciting applications because that's just kind of marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
And letting people know what's out there, but again, once they apply, then no, it needs
No more communication.
needs to stick to the hearing.
Okay.
But Erica, do you have anything to add or change on that?
No,
From your perspective.
Just that Sergio seemed to take a stricter view of that policy in the past. But no, I think that, we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the meeting that there's Inglewood events coming up that will be great opportunities, especially if council votes to go for CLG status, to reach out to the public and let them know that there are these opportunities available and that there's grants potentially available, and just kind of help spread the word so we can start getting some landmark applications in.
I appreciate your position on that and your kind of analysis of it. That helps out a lot. I've been in conversation with other historic preservation commissions around the state, and they certainly did not have that restriction put in place. In fact, Aurora, being one of the older ones, I believe they first formed their historic preservation commission sometime in the 80s. They're a well-oiled machine when it comes to historic preservation. And the one thing they had, when I attended one of their meetings, they actually had a quota that each member of the commission was required to at least talk to a certain number of people every year about the importance of historic designation, which I don't know if we need to do that, but I looked at that and it was definitely in stark contrast to the early kind of understanding and formulation of this, but I'm glad that there's better clarification on this, that we'd be allowed to do that.
And if you ever have any questions on anything, we all have the same email address. Mine is tniles@inglewoodco.gov. Don't hesitate to reach out or reach out to Eric or Nancy, and they'll get those questions to us.
Appreciate that. One last question.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'm sorry to hijack. It's not too much off topic here. It is around procedures. We do not have a council liaison anymore. Is that correct?
Well, technically, you still do because it's in your bylaws. And I saw that bylaw revisions are on your agenda for tonight. So once you become a quasi-judicial board that makes decisions, a member of city council could hear an appeal or could also preside over the same matter, potentially overturning HPC's decision. So if that's the case, then your council liaison shouldn't sit here and listen to everything here in your discussion and debate and then go preside over it as your appellate body. So every quasi-judicial board that we have that makes decisions that can be appealed or reconsidered to city council, we do not have a council liaison. We did discuss the possibility of allowing a council liaison to attend, except when there's quasi-judicial proceedings. That would be okay, but it's also complicated. Because what if they show up and then there's a quasi-judicial proceeding and then they don't leave? well, then they may have to recuse when it comes to city council. So our recommendation was amend the bylaws just to eliminate that position altogether.
Okay, sorry about that, Cash. I guess we're talking about that later.
No, that's okay. No, that's a perfectly fine question. Are there other questions?
Yeah, just going back to that, a comment about including a summary of the debate. So if we want that to happen, we would introduce a motion for that to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah, and it's just the same procedure of introducing and seconding and voting on it.
And one thing about the new Bobs that's a change from the prior versions is it's really stressed flexibility. So if you don't follow the procedure step by step by step, it's okay as long as nobody objects. So if everyone knows what's happening and follows along, so it's based, the form is stressed less so much as the action. The action is more important. So I think it's also for boards that maybe you haven't sat on other boards, or it becomes a good introduction and it's not stressful. If you don't make the motion exactly right, or if you vote on a motion and nobody seconded it, but it passed, no harm, no foul.
Great. Was there any questions from anyone joining us virtually?
It's going to be my question.
No questions.
All right, well, hearing none, thank you both very much. Appreciate it. That was very informative.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate the update. You're welcome to stay, but obviously you may have other things to do, so we
Well,
won't leave you.
we're happy to stay if you need us. I didn't know exactly what the content was of the bylaw revisions.
Yeah, and I'm gonna look to Eric as we move to that. I mean, if you don't mind staying for a couple more minutes for that discussion, because I suspect there may be additional questions, although Matt did a good job previewing it. So.
Actually, that was the reason why I wanted to ask you while you were here. I figured you'd take off. Because
Yeah.
knowing that was in discussion later in the meeting, I wanted to kind of get a better understanding from you.
Yeah, so moving to that item number 5A on the agenda, the bylaw revision changes that are in the packet. It is what Tamara said, which is to remove the city council advisor as an ex officio member of the commission. And Eric, I don't know if you had anything to add. I assume these revisions, as it says on here, just came straight from the city attorney's office.
Yep. And it was just basically 2 items of Article 2 are going to be revised. Item 3, ex officio members, is going to strike the language which said and may include city council advisor. And then item 4 for voting rights, the language about a secret ballot may only be used in the election process for chair or vice chair has been struck. And those were the 2 changes.
And before we invite questions or have discussion, my recollection, speaking of procedural issues, is I think we cannot vote on a bylaw change the first meeting it's introduced. So we can discuss it tonight and it can only be voted on at the next meeting.
Correct. Yep, it would be an agenda item for the next one.
Perfect. With that, are there questions or points of discussion about the proposed bylaw changes?
Well, it's nice to have a council member here. Gives a little bit more visibility into our organization. For most of the last couple of years, we haven't had one. So that is what it is, I guess. But the other one, the voting rights one, I'm happy to see that out of there. It's funny, I'm trying to understand the context with how that was originally put in there for a secret ballot for chair and vice chair. But it makes perfect sense not having that in there.
To my recollection, we've never actually used a secret ballot.
That is correct. Everybody was very open and transparent on that. Yeah. I just look at that and wonder how that passed the Colorado.
But it does seem like
opening.
now that it's been struck, you can use a secret ballot at any point for any reason.
Can we use secret ballots?
No. Colorado Open Meetings Law prohibits using secret ballots.
Oh,
However,
I
there
see.
is an exception for certain election of officers, but it's not something that we recommend. I mean, the city council especially really stresses transparency, and I mean, we record and put meetings on our website that aren't even open meetings that don't have to be. And so We recommended complete removal of it because it doesn't align with city council's goal of openness.
Other questions or discussion? Melinda or Alex online?
I had a comment, yes.
Go ahead.
When we were originally drafting the bylaws, I think we copied them from some other types of commissions, and that's how that secret ballot thing got in there. Like you, I don't recall that we've ever used it.
That makes sense. Yeah, what I will say about those two items, the striking the secret ballot language makes sense. We've never done it. It doesn't need to be in there. It sounds like it could be problematic if we left it in there, so that should be taken out in my view. As far as the city council advisor, I think you're spot on, Matt. It's nice to have one here, and we've had different levels of involvement, I will say, over the years that I've been on the commission, and it's nice with our most recent advisor and council member, Wright, that she has, when able, been here frequently, other than when this issue came up with us converting to a quasi-judicial body. So while that would be nice to continue, probably with all of the, I don't want to say consternation, but all of the work that we've gone through to become a quasi-judicial body and actually have the power to designate landmarks, ultimately, if that means we can't have a city council advisor present, then I think we're ultimately better off to actually have the power to designate landmarks going forward. And I would say we should defer to the advice of the city attorney's office about removing that language from our bylaws. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I'll say that the most consistent, I think, was Kim attending our meetings.
Dave Cuesta came frequently.
He did,
He
that's
was
true.
our advisor as well. So yeah, there have been, like I said, different levels of participation. But if that, and I think, Tamara, I think I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I heard you say that when it comes to any other board or commission that's quasi-judicial or has these kinds of powers, there are not city council advisors.
There's one exception, Water Sewer Board, by our charter, has the mayor and 2 council members that sit on that board. But no decisions, they are quasi-judicial, but no decisions are appealed to city council. They're appealed directly to district court. So that's the difference.
That makes sense. If there's not further questions or discussion, I would suggest that we put this on the agenda to be voted on at the next meeting, and I do not recall whether that requires a vote to vote on it next time.
Good question.
Well, with the new Bobs, it's flexible.
Yeah.
But I understand the chair has the discretion to set the agenda, so I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but you can.
So what I will ask is there any objection from anyone to putting these proposed bylaw revisions on the agenda for the next, I'll say next meeting, which I suppose will be next month if we have this item? Is there any objection to putting that on the agenda to be voted on next month?
The only thing I'll say is, in this particular case, these changes make sense. Would we be setting a precedent because I do like the idea of any bylaw changes or any kind of significant changes to that process and procedures to be thought about and before it's voted on. So I kind of like that, but of course I understand that we probably need to change this as soon as possible. So I wouldn't be an objection to doing that for this one, but I think going forward, I like the idea of having the 30 days of.
Well, I'm not suggesting voting on it now. I'm suggesting on voting on it next month, since this is the first time it's been considered. I'm just asking whether anyone has an objection to it being on the agenda next month.
Perfect. No objection for me.
So, yeah, so hearing no objection to that, Eric, those proposed revisions can be on the agenda for April.
All right, sounds good.
For us to vote on. item number 6, certified local government outreach opportunities.
Yeah, right. And then I'm going to, Melinda and Alex, just a heads up, I'm going to email you a document here. The rest of you, I'm going to pass this around. So as I mentioned earlier, there are several opportunities coming up throughout the spring and summer for if we do get granted CLG status. There are opportunities for public outreach. And I've listed kind of 4 main ones for Inglewood. The first one right up is the Hop and Shop on April 12th, which would be a pretty tight turnaround time since council votes on CLG on the April 7th. But I did want to put that on your radar because that's usually a pretty well-attended event. Again, Earth Day celebration is another possibility. Celebrate Inglewood is another big one. And then Inglewood Block Party in August. And then, so I've also listed on the sheet neighborhood nights. So if one of your neighborhoods is on here and you would like to go to that neighborhood nights and do a little outreach there, we can make that happen. So what I guess I would need, because we would need to keep it less than a quorum. So that would probably be 2 or 3 people at a booth. Probably 2 is manageable. As I guess at this point, if, I'm sorry, Alex and Melinda, I got sidetracked here. I'm going to email this to you now. If there are any, I mean, you don't have to say anything this evening, but if you do have one event over another that you would like to attend and be available for, let me know. And I will get into the process of getting us a booth for that event.
And would that come out of our budget?
So any sort of materials that we decide to come up with for like CLG flyers or anything like that, that would come out of our budget. But basically just, you know, it would basically just be volunteer time at these events.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as having a booth, these are all city events, right? So
Yep.
it wouldn't cost us anything
Right.
to have a booth.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because
So
they
not
give
a
us the table.
Or a tent or anything?
Yep, we all get that provided.
Oh, great.
So.
But we also don't have like a tablecloth or anything like that either.
We have a historic preservation banner.
Oh, we
To
do?
kind of drape over the table, yep.
Oh.
Because we did that at the Inglewood Block Party, so I know that's around here somewhere,
Oh,
so
that's great.
we do have that.
Yeah, so like I'm sure everyone will have to look at their calendars, so I don't want to bombard you with emails from people, Eric, but is there some easier procedure you have in mind for us to handle, letting you know what we might be able to attend? The ones on the left are gonna be the bigger events,
Yep.
right?
Well, if I may, Cash,
Sure.
could we put it on the agenda preceding, the month preceding each of these events, and then kind of coordinate
Yeah.
the members there? I think having a kind of organized and concerted effort that we have people signed up to go to those, and a meeting time is a pretty good time to decide that.
Well,
Yeah.
the first 2 would be today.
Yeah, so April 12th.
Oh, we would meet April, hold on.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
April 16th, we would meet.
So I'm fine to discuss. I think that's a good idea, Matt. I'm happy to discuss April 26th. April 12th, with that vote being on the 7th on the CLG, which,
Maybe we just,
I think that might be a
Too
little
soon.
too soon.
yeah, I think we should wait on that. I mean, hopefully that'll pass. All indications were it'll pass, but I don't wanna speak too soon. So I think next month we can discuss the 26th and others if people want to volunteer for others. But yes, I think that's a fine idea to put at least the next upcoming one on the agenda.
Okay. And then, yeah, just kind of think about your calendars over the summer, and then we can talk about it more next time. And then hopefully we'll at least be able to get to 2 of the bigger events and then maybe a handful of the neighborhood nights.
Yeah, And the related item that I suppose we ought to put on the agenda for next month then, and in understanding it might not come together by April 26th, is, I know we've talked about this a couple of times, but we need a vote to happen on April 7th to make it official, but something from comms as far as literature about the CLG deal.
And then I did have a question for you since you're here. Does, if city council votes to approve the CLG, is there a 30-day appeal period for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so we had the option of city council authorizing application for CLG, and then would have to come back for an ordinance approval if we were authorized to ordinance would be required to sign the contract. So instead, we just did one, where we're bringing it via ordinance one time and requesting authorization to apply, and then if it's offered, then authorization to enter into the contract. So instead of bringing it twice. But because the contract has to be approved by ordinance, it has 2 readings, and then there's a 30-day period before it becomes effective.
Okay.
So, I mean, so there could be a public referendum time period. We have no indication that anyone is interested in challenging this.
Okay. So what would your recommendation be, to wait to do any outreach until that 30-day appeal period has passed?
I would say wait until after second reading.
Okay, does it do 2 readings?
It does.
Okay,
Yeah, but assuming it's unanimously approved on first reading, it's on consent agenda the second time.
okay.
If I may, we don't have to talk about the CLG stuff, we can talk about the Historic Preservation Commission.
That's true, yeah.
True.
So we don't need to give out any literature, on that, but we can certainly give out because we are technically under the current ordinance as written. It gives us some authorities within, for his historic designation, so we can
Yes.
start marketing
Yes,
that sooner or
absolutely.
later. We could just not talk about the CLG stuff until that, until we're safely outside of the referendum period.
Yeah, or just say it's passed and awaiting second reading, Yeah.
Yes, or city council approved,
Yeah.
because they did approve it on first reading.
Is April 7th, I have April 7th in my calendar for that. Is that the first reading?
I
Okay.
believe it is, yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to talk about these meetings, not Spring Festival, we'll miss that, but yes, we can put that on the agenda, and also the communications piece.
Mhm.
Is there any other questions or discussion about the certified local government outreach opportunities before we leave that item?
What's the turnaround on any kind of, information from communications on that? Would be nice to have a glossy flyer of some sort, I suppose, but I don't know what the turnaround would be for Chris and team to do that.
Probably not very long. I kind of was talking to him about that earlier, so it sounds like it's going to be for me. If I do, one of these meetings, I might add on to the agenda if we have some potential kind of draft CLG material handouts. I'll bring those so we can review it.
Yeah, so that it's ready.
Yep.
If we get the
Yeah.
anticipated approval,
Yes.
knock on wood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. That brings us to election of officers, which we postponed from last month to figure out a couple logistical issues. And I think the main issue, well, I think we had, Lauren Cooper's not a member anymore. She moved at Englewood, right?
Yep, she's
as,
in Denver.
as of this month, so we were down 1. But we have a quorum, which means we can do it tonight, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then I think there was a question about whether I could serve another term or not.
Yeah, so Ken had thought, and I had kind of thought the same thing, that you had taken, it was kind of a mid-term reappointment, but it is actually done in February when we usually do the
Oh,
appointments.
okay.
So you have been chair for a full 2 years.
Right, so my reign of terror is officially over.
So, yeah, we'll need to appoint a new chair and vice chair this evening.
All right. in the past, we haven't used the secret ballot process as we've discussed before. So I think we discussed at the last meeting that the responsibilities are many and heavy, being chair and vice chair. No, I'm kidding. Eric puts together the agenda. He's very kind to do that every month. And obviously you have approval of the agenda, but Eric pretty much handles putting that together. Occasionally, of course, being chair or vice chair, both, involves having to appear before city council. I've done that 2 or 3 times, I guess, while I've been chair, so that duty, I guess, comes along with that. But really, and then running the meetings, of course, under these very complicated rules of procedure that we have a lot of flexibility to implement. So, yeah, it's not a huge burden or ask to be chair. So I would encourage any and all of you to take it over if you're interested. So, is everyone else? Because I know there's a number of folks who have been chair and vice chair in the past, but I think enough time has elapsed that other than me, everyone else is eligible to take over as chair or vice chair,
Yep,
right?
it's only consecutive 2 years is the only limitation, so take a year off and you chair again.
Oh, so he's not eligible for vice chair either.
I believe it's both. I would be happy to do it, but I think I thought that that term limitation was on both, but I don't know that for certain.
I have it pulled up.
Oh,
It's
thank
just
you.
the same office.
Oh,
You
okay.
cannot serve in the same capacity for more than 2 consecutive terms. So you are eligible to be vice chair.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Gradual.
Yeah, gradual demotion. If I'm happy to do that at the pleasure of the commission. If the commission would like me to be the vice chair, I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm happy to let others step into that role as well.
Do we have anyone who is interested in being chair?
Melinda, Alex?
Ken?
No, I'm asking because you guys are online. I just want to make sure you guys had space to declare your desire to be.
Well, I already served 2 terms as chair and 2 terms as vice chair, and I really thought I wasn't eligible again.
Well, you are now. So if you want it.
No, I don't.
Melinda.
All right, well, in that instance, I will nominate Matt Crabtree
Oh my
to
God.
serve as chair again, if you are willing to accept that nomination.
I honestly, I'd like to, I could, and more than willing, but I would like to see somebody else kind of have that opportunity. Ken?
I nominate you for chair as well, and I nominate him as vice chair.
That we would flip. I don't know, I guess,
Yes, you are the current vice chair. that is
yes,
true.
I am the current vice chair. I don't know. I nominate Ken, let's see how.
All who second my nomination of Matt as chair and Cass as vice chair, please say aye.
Like I said, I'm happy to do whatever, so.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nice to kind of share the responsibilities and have a diverse leadership. So, I don't know, you're not interested, Ken?
I'm new. I'm pretty new.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean.
We were all new once. And I was about to nominate Ken as vice chair.
I'll come around at some point.
And we get to do it again next year.
Yeah, we get to do this again in a year.
Well, I will just add, there is a proposal to align our board and commission policies so that they're all the same. So you are one of the only, if not the only board that only has 1-year terms. So it's likely it will change to a 2-year term.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Even better.
The other question is, when am I termed on this commission? Because that is a distinct possibility here, because it's 3 maximum, if I understand correctly, it's maximum of 3 terms actually being reappointed to the commission. So I may be approaching that.
I checked the bylaws and that's true.
It's not just bylaws, by city ordinance too.
3 terms of
3 terms of appointment by council.
Right, of 4 years.
I believe that's correct. That is a long time. Maybe that's,
So it looks, does your term expire in July? Or you're appointed, reappointed, oh no, you're eligible for one more term then.
one more term.
If you were appointed in 17, 21, and then you could be appointed, I think, in 25 as well.
Okay. Okay.
You got some time.
I got a lot of
Yeah.
time, I guess.
We've got another full go around.
Can't get out of it on that basis, I'm sorry.
All right, I guess I don't have to worry about the agenda much anymore with.
No,
with
that is, Eric kindly takes care of that under our more formalized procedures since we've become a quasi judicial board, and to align us better as we discuss. Yeah, Eric and sometimes Brian, but mostly Eric takes care of that. So you're relieved of that. You of course have input on it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. All right. You twisted my arm back into this.
So I think the what's on the floor is for Matt to take over as chair and me to switch to vice chair. And unless there's any further discussion or nominees or anything like that, then Eric, do you just want to call a roll vote to Mark? We can vote on that jointly, I think, and just mark a yay or nay on that. Is that fair?
Yeah, I need an official motion to nominate chair and vice chair, and I'll need.
Oh. Wait, I make a motion to nominate Matt as chair and Cash as co-chair,
Vice chair.
or vice chair, sorry.
And is there a second?
I will second.
That having been moved and seconded, I will look to you, Eric, to take a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll just go down the list here. Alex,
Yay.
Matt,
Yep,
Melinda,
Aye.
Jim's absent, Cash,
Yes,
and Ken.
Aye.
right.
Perfect.
That motion passes. I don't remember whether it's effective immediately. I can finish out running that meeting.
You know, we got a lot of stuff left here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a hard duty. Well, great. Thank you, Eric, for looking into those logistical and technical issues. I appreciate you doing that and figuring that out. And we were obviously a little bit delayed from our normal February, but we'll see going forward if we end up in 2-year terms, and maybe we'll have to do it again next year. But thanks, everyone. Appreciate remaining in the vice chair slot. Staff's choice, Eric.
I did have one thing. I sent you an email earlier this afternoon. We got a request for another Section 106 review. This is for the Dartmouth widening project. And it's going along a few houses that might be considered historical. But my initial review, it doesn't look like this would be impacting the properties at all. It's just improvements on the street in front of these properties. So I did send that information to you to take a look at and review. And please remember to just reply to me only, not a reply all. And then I will take your comments. And then if we do have any comments, I will get those back to the State Historic Preservation Office. I do believe I gave you a deadline on that of April 11th. So if you have any comments by then, please let me know. And also be aware that no comment is also an acceptable answer in Section 106 reviews.
What if we have questions?
If I can give you the contact information of the person who sent out the request. I can also give you the contact person of someone on the city side who's familiar with the project. Would you
Well,
want
if
me to
that's
send that to you?
all you can do. No, excuse me. I used to live right near one of those intersections in Dartmouth. And it's way past time to put some sort of traffic calming thing there. But I did have some questions about it. And because I lived right there, I can also affirm that there's only one house in that block that is younger than 50 years.
Okay. I will forward you my contact information from SHPO, and then you can reach out and get those questions answered.
Okay,
And also confirm, I think it's Rachel on Public Works side that's spearheading this project, but I will need to confirm that with Public Works.
Anything else for staff's choice?
I don't think so. I think that's it for me.
Okay, great. Commissioner's choice, I'll start online. Melinda, do you have anything for commissioner's choice?
not at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Alex, anything for commissioner's choice?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Ken?
I have a quick thing. I have a question. And we're short a member, aren't we?
We're down one.
Two, aren't we?
Just one.
Just one?
Because our newest member, Jim
Oh.
Woodward, is not in attendance.
Yes, right, sorry.
So is there, based on the information we just received tonight about being able to market the value of applying for historic status, is there anything that would prohibit me from reaching out to CJ and letting her know that we have a new understanding of that now?
No, fine by me.
I've talked to her a little bit, here and there about various things. She's quite excited about the CLG prospect, but if you want to reach out to CJ too, and we invite her back.
I mean, that was like the primary reason why she resigned, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons.
Okay.
But that's, I think she was kind of frustrated with the lack of momentum that we had for a little while there because of waiting on ordinance and things.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Matt?
That's a good idea, and she might come back.
Yeah.
I mean, like me, she was frustrated by 8 years of hostile city council. So,
I won't comment on that. Matt, do you have anything?
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Actually, just a reminder, Historic Englewood has their museum on the second floor. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I highly recommend it. It's a great exhibit. That will be going through the end of June, I believe, yes. And we're going to start changing exhibits mid-year. And no exhibit's kind of a surprise, but we'll let you know when that comes about. We do have a monthly lecture this month. Of course, I don't have the poster up, so I can't give the definition of it, but look for your email. Because you should be getting emails from Historic Englewood on it. I believe it's Don Roth be giving kind of a history, but I don't remember off the top of my head. More importantly, though, I did want to bring up something that does actually that will be coming before council that does affect historic significance and historic designation in the city of Englewood, and that is, I think what Downtown Development Authority is proposing the Broadway design guidelines, which would create design guidelines over and encourage for adaptive reuse along with various things for kind of protecting specifically Broadway, 3400 block and that area of Broadway, but also encouraging any development that happened there to fall within certain guidelines for materials, appearance, things along those lines to kind of re-emphasize our Main Street, which for many years, I don't know, Gash, when you moved here or Ken, but I moved here in 2003. And that area was unfortunately neglected for quite some time from many standpoints. So there is a little bit of tension on council right now as it goes for what's being discussed. This isn't a formal thing on the commission here, obviously. So any comments or reaching out to council members to get more information on it, or I was thinking too that there's a couple packets that are certainly interesting and worth reading. If I could send those to Eric, and Eric, you could distribute those to the rest of the commission. After this meeting, I'll do that. Read about it. I believe it goes before vote on April 7th.
It's gonna
Same.
gonna be a busy night.
Same
I have a
session.
public hearing that night
Busy
too.
night. So it will go before council, I believe, on April 7th for first reading of the Broadway, design guidelines. They're, like I said, it is definitely split on council for support, and I have no idea where that could be going.
Is it just, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, is it just the 3400 block?
It has a lot of emphasis on Broadway. It's not just 3400 block. It does extend a little bit further, if I recall. From that, I believe it goes from just a little bit south of Hampton to, it's about two to three blocks, I believe, on Broadway where the design guidelines. There's some really great stuff that they are doing with it, as it relates to, like, they're gonna, the obscurity crosswalk across Broadway apparently will be addressed. And there will be a controlled intersection there, which will be a good thing. That's less part of this, but it's design guidelines, though, I think is not out of the ordinary for business districts. Other cities have considered that and have done it. It kind of, our front door to the neighboring cities is Broadway, so it's good to kind of maintain what little is left of our historic character and historic Main Street. So if you're interested in reaching out to council members, if you're interested in potentially attending that council meeting or even potentially speaking in favor of it at council, that would obviously, according to the conversation I had with Eric, that would be done independently, not as an official capacity of the commission, but I think it does hold some. This portion of the EDDA's movement, it does hold some pretty important significance for history.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Matt said, if you want to speak or write a letter, that's fine. You just need to do so as a
Tamara
Inglewood citizen.
as the area up on our list.
Yeah, I pulled up the map from the April 7th presentation. They already have it done. So it's from 285 to Eastman. So it's the 3200 block through the 3500 block.
Yeah. Obviously, the intent of that is to just kind of preserve what we have there. When they built the apartment complex around the backside of the 3400 block, it doesn't look bad, right? But architecturally, it doesn't also, there could have been, I think there's been some other discussion. Melissa, or Melinda, I'm sorry, Melinda, I think you had some comments on that years ago when they built that it would have been nice to use red brick. I think that was you that said that.
Yes, I did.
This would be basically encouraging that architectural styling that would match the heritage of England. And that's it.
Nothing else from you then?
No.
Okay. Speaking of that April 7th meeting, I am planning to go again unless there's any objection, since I was the one who, spoke along with others, with Eric and Lindsay from SHPO at the city council meeting before. I'm hoping there won't be any more questions or any discussion about the CLG, and I anticipate that to be the case, but I am planning to go, and so if others want to come, that's great. It hopefully will be a nothing deal where it just gets passed, and there won't be any further really discussion or debate about it, but yeah, I will plan to be there and be available, and you'll be there, right, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've got like 3 things that night.
Yeah, you'd have to be there anyway, so yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I was gonna ask about, the pipeline for another member to fill our vacancy, but I guess we'll see. Because I know we just went through the cycle for filling en masse the vacancies across board, so I guess they wait until there's more applications that come through. Is that kind of the deal, or they put out a solicitation for the vacancy?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And that meeting on the 7th, it starts at 6, is that right?
Starts at 7, I believe.
So there's a study session generally, and then there's the formal meeting that starts after that, so.
Yeah, and this is all in the formal meeting, not the study session.
Yes, because the last meeting was the study session that we
Oh, I
spoke
see.
at, This is, yeah, I have it as 7. Yeah. It's the formal meeting, so. Good. I don't have anything else for Commissioner's Choice, so if there's nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned?
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, 7:31 on my clock. Eric, thanks, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be chair for the last 2 terms, and good luck to Matt taking over. Very good. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks. Thank you
Thanks so
very
much.
much for coming. Yeah.
This is fantastic.
I hope it'll be helpful.
Yeah, it is. I've been meaning to read that.